Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. This is Lori Smith on Blog Talk Radio. It is 6 o'clock here in the morning, Tuesday morning, January 24th. I'm glad to be here. This is One Child Abuse Survivor to Another. We're on for 30 minutes. It's a live internet streaming radio broadcast from blogtalkradio.com. And the chat room is open. I didn't put any links in there, but I'll give you the links to what I'm looking at today. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I appreciate everybody listening to my shows and continuing on this journey with me, this 2-year journey with me here on Blog Talk Radio. I've been talking about in the mornings, Survivor to Another is really my healing journey. It's my own healing journey. It's what I'm dealing with to work through my own issues of growing up abused and whatnot. So it's very sensitive material. You have to listen at your own discretion. To all of my shows, I'm talking about abuse, and abuse is a very sensitive subject, and if you're not sure if it's something that you should be listening to age appropriately, or if you're a survivor, you're just starting out on your healing journey, you want to be very cautious about what you listen to so you don't go backward in your healing journey, and just know that what's safe for you to listen to, right? So if you feel like topics of abuse of any type might bother you, then please turn my shows off. Don't listen to them, right? I have a discretionary warning placed on my shows, and I'm talking about a lot of adult material. So anyone 18 and under, just have an adult listen to the show with you, someone who's older, who's an adult. If you have a parent or someone in your life, caregiver, somebody who you trust and who has a good head on their shoulders, can listen to the show with you and then help you make a decision, whether it's something age appropriate for you, right? So we'll get right into this, to what we're talking about. We left off yesterday looking at some PDFs that were part of a course that you can take. It's free. It's off of Emmanuels.org, IMMANUELS.org. It's a church website, but they have some interesting information there for people who are interested in biblical counseling for themselves, or to look into becoming a biblical counselor. And it's good information. It's been very helpful for me because I'm a Christian, so obviously it works for me. So this is kind of where I'm at in my journey, because I know pretty well I've covered all the secular stuff out there, the stuff that doesn't pertain to biblical counseling, even looking at some spiritual stuff from Robert Burney, who's a codependence counselor and a grief counselor. Robert Burney, he's got some great information as well. If you ever get a chance to look at his stuff, Codependence, The Dance of Wounded Souls. I spent a long time on that, looking into that information that he had. I found it very, very helpful. And just looking at the secular stuff out there, John Bradshaw, and just a whole bunch of people who have some great info out there for survivors of abuse or struggling with a lot of these issues. And so over the last couple of years, that's what I've been doing. And now my focus is biblical counseling, and that's because I'm looking into the last portion of my healing journey. Really, I'm looking at the last part of it, which is mainly, I'm a Christian, so mainly looking at forgiveness and looking at getting my heart right, so that I can move past this stuff. I don't want to be wounded for the rest of my life. I don't want to be in the same position I was in my whole life, and that was to be a victim, and that was to have that victim mentality, and that's just how I was brought up. So that's how I was shown how to behave. And so I'm having to, over the, especially the last 5 years since I started my healing journey, work through this stuff, right? And realize, what I was doing, which I didn't even recognize a lot of it, and self-destructive behaviors and things like this, and just relationship issues, things like that, just stemming from the way that I grew up. So in doing that, the last part of my stuff really is just getting my heart right. How do I finish the last part of my healing journey? Where I don't have any more grudges, and I'm going to allow myself to be free to let go of this painful stuff. This is what I've hung on to all my life, and that's holding grudges and holding my abusers in contempt, and obviously a lot of anger associated with that, a lot of rage, really, when I was younger, and just a whole lot of bad feelings, which have taken over my thought processes and taken over my heart, and it's hard not to be that way, and that's why I think a lot of survivors of abuse get stuck in that, because it's hard not to be like that. But what it does is, yesterday I sort of left off, sort of picked up where I left off yesterday, is that, abusers, when they commit these acts, whatever it is, whoever the abuser was, generally, maybe some will repent and they'll, which just means that, they'll take responsibility for what they did, they'll feel bad, and they'll confess it, and they'll, whatever, even maybe do time or whatever, but they'll try to make it right with the person that they abused, even though there's no way they can really go back and undo what they did. I've heard of stories where people have done that, and the abusers have taken full responsibility, and even though they still look pretty bad, the people have sort of said, well, at least they tried. You know what I mean? Well, most abusers aren't like that. Like most of people who abuse other people and abuse children actually feel very justified in what they do, and they don't feel bad about what they do. And there's a whole lot of people out there who are very sick and twisted who do these horrible things to people and children, either their own children or somebody else's children, and don't feel bad about it at all. They feel completely justified. And so, in the meantime, the survivors are sitting back later on, however many years later, or even as children, saying, having these horrible issues in their life, and not healing and not moving forward in any kind of healing journey. I know I wasn't until I decided to change things 5 years ago, because I knew that I didn't want to continue to live the way that I was living, which was in misery. And I thought, man, I got to change this. No, my abusers are dead. My main abusers are gone. So how am I going to, there's obviously no justice here for me on this earth. So how am I going to deal with this? So I started to allow myself to work through this stuff. But until then, until I was ready, it obviously wasn't going to happen. So that was 5 years ago when I decided to do this. And, the thing is my abusers are long dead. And they don't care. And even if they were here, would they care? Probably not. That's why they were very abusive, hurtful people. My mother used to put everything on herself. Like she was a narcissist as well as a victim. So if anything was going on in the family, and there was supposed to be some sort of sympathy or empathy or compassion for someone else in the family, she would turn it back on herself, so that she would again be able to receive attention, which instead of giving attention where it needed to be, it was always on her. Even if the situation came up where somebody said, yeah, you were harsh on the kids when they were growing up and stuff, or whatever would be said, she'd be like, well, I don't care, I was a victim and I'm the one, always back on herself. And I think that's the victim mentality, and that's what we're all capable of doing, is to continue to wallow in our own stuff forever while the abusers don't care. And what kind of a life is that? And this is where I just got down to the very serious issue of, my abusers really don't care if I'm dead. They don't care if I kill myself. They don't care if I die. They don't care. Well, they're dead, right? But even if they were here today, they wouldn't care. And I realized that 5 years ago. I thought, man, there's nobody even in my living family that cares. They really don't. They like to pretend that they do, but they don't, because they didn't care about my brothers that killed themselves either. And so, two of my brothers killed themselves. And my family is very sick and twisted. They're obviously very, very dysfunctional, and they aren't working through their stuff. They're not trying to change. They're not trying to work through this stuff and to sort of heal from the mess that we all lived through. We all grew up in the same house from the same parents, right? And so, they're not on a healing journey, right? They don't care. To them, they're just in denial about abuse. That's why they don't see anything wrong with abuse, right? They're just in denial. No, they will actually. They have in the past. I mean, I've talked to my siblings quite a bit about this stuff. We have over the years, and I would say something like, that Dad was raping Mom. Like, this was something that was very serious in my family. This was going on for years and years, and my mother was obviously she was a victim in this. But she never got out. She could have got out, and she had many opportunities to get out. But my dad was just this abusive jerk who wanted his needs met at all times, and so he would just rape her. He didn't care what time of day it was. He didn't care who was around. He would just rape her. So he raped my mother in front of me one time when I was a little girl, And so he was a horrible man. And my sister just, well, she puts it on my mom. Well, mom, it was mom's fault or whatever. It's like, how could it be? See, my sister is completely screwed, right? Like, she's 5 years older than me, and she has no concept of boundaries. She lets men in her life mistreat her. She lets men do these horrible things to her, these relationships, because she has no boundaries. She doesn't understand that that's wrong. Now, she treated her own daughter very well. Like, I mean, I have to give her that credit at least. She did not abuse her daughter. On the other hand, she totally let her daughter do whatever she wanted to, and created no boundaries for her daughter, setting her daughter up to realize to not be aware of safety issues and what to allow in your life and what not to allow in your life. So I mean, she, who's perfect? Like, nobody's perfect, but at least she didn't mistreat her daughter. She was very good to her daughter, so that's good. But the thing is she thinks that was okay that my dad raped my mother. My sister thinks it's okay that my mother beat the shit out of me and that my brother raped me. See, this is the kind of stuff that sort of eats at me. Steady. It's like there's people in my own, which is the whole rest of my family, which there's only 3 of us left. That think this stuff is fine. That in their mind can justify it. Abuse. No, I can't do that. I don't know who could. I don't know of anybody in their right mind who could say that it's okay to do these horrible things to people, whether it's your own family or somebody else. Like, to me, that is so wrong. It's so incredibly twisted and evil. And if people don't stand up against, stand up for what is right and stand up against what is wrong, well, then they're screwed. Because even the laws will try to do that. You know what I mean? The laws even say that it's completely against the law to rape someone. You just can't go around doing that. Well, my family thinks it's fine. Where in their minds they got that? I don't know. Just because they don't want to deal with it. They don't want to deal with the fact that my mother was truly a victim. She was being victimized. She was also my main abuser. But they don't want to deal with that. This way they can just blow it off. Oh, well, to each their own, consequences or whatever, and it's like, okay, you people have completely lost touch with reality, man. I mean, reality is that my parents were both abusers and that they were both abusing each other. That's the reality. And the aftermath is what the aftermath is. It was a mess, and our family was destroyed. That's the aftermath. Well, they don't want to deal with that, so they don't. But anyway, I do. So the issue is I decided, I don't want to, the more I sit around, like, this was 5 years ago, thinking about, that I didn't want to be alive anymore, that I was tired of fighting this fight, fighting to live, just tired of the same old feelings that I was having, which was, a lot of anger and a lot of sadness, a lot of just sheer depression from just the abuse that I witnessed and was forced to endure. I thought, how am I going to change this? Like, I really have to change this. I have to allow something to happen inside of me because I can't keep going this way. I have to do something different, and that's where the change started to occur. But the thing is, it's real easy to stay stuck in that area of unforgiveness, of like, and I understand that completely, and as a Christian, I mean, I don't, a lot of people just don't look at the issues of forgiveness from a victim standpoint. They're like, oh, you just have to forgive and forget, It's like, okay, have you ever been raped and sodomized by your own brother who was 21 years old and like when you were 8 years old? You try forgiving that. You know what I mean? And that's just my story. You know what I mean? Like, you try forgiving a mother who bashes your head in and calls you a whore and spits in your face and throws you out. I mean, you try forgiving that. There are people out there who've been through a whole lot worse, and there's people out there who've been through some horrible, horrible stuff, And then you have other people trying to tell them, oh, well, you just have to forgive and forget, Well, it's real easy for them to say that. Those are easy words to say to somebody when you haven't walked a mile in their shoes. Those are real easy words to say to somebody when you haven't been abused like that, and as a child, and not even knowing, how to deal with it. Where do you put that stuff? It's like, people are very much, they don't want to deal with it. So the easy answer is to say, well, you just have to forgive and forget and move on. See, that's what my dad tells me. My abuser dad, who's a Christian who loves to throw that out, whenever he gets a chance. I don't talk to him anymore for a while now. But, last Christmas, actually, a year ago, not this Christmas, so a year ago, a year and a month ago, he phoned me, left a message on my machine, my answering machine. He says, well, you just have to forgive and forget. And I'm like, oh, Dad, isn't that great? Coming from a man who beat on his wife, beat on his children, raped his wife, treated his family horribly. He stuck around and he did pay for groceries, and he kept a roof over our heads. But he was a horrible, horrible man. He was not a good husband, and he was not a loving, caring, decent father, right? And he was always trying to kill himself, and he's running around the house naked, which he still does. He's very sick. He's mentally ill. And so, here he goes. It's real easy for him to say, oh, you just have to forgive and forget. Coming from an abuser. I'm like, I don't have to listen to you. I don't care. I don't care who you are. I don't have to listen to that garbage, especially coming from an abuser. No thanks. You know what I mean? So I know I got my boundaries set. My boundaries say that I'm not going to allow anyone to mistreat me like that. I'm not. My boundaries say, you know what? Okay, I was a victim once, but I was a child and I couldn't help that. But as an adult, I don't have to be treated like that. I need to be treated with dignity, with respect. And I demand that. Absolutely, I do. I was talking about that on many shows. This is probably about a year ago, but it's absolutely crazy that people think that just because I'm a Christian, that I should just be able to just forgive and forget and walk away from all this. Right? Okay, sure, yeah. Like that's reality. I don't think so. That's being in denial. If I wanted to just be in denial, that's fine. If I thought it would work, but I know it doesn't. And so I was talking with a friend of mine about that last night. But the issues are that, we have to be, at some point, I thought, okay, I do have to feel okay. I want to be feeling, like what I suffered as a child is never going to be right, What any child suffers like that at the hands of somebody else who would abuse them and mistreat them is never going to be right. So, and, I know, biblically, I know in the Bible what God has to say about people who mistreat children. And Jesus made it very clear, very, very plain. Even just keeping a little one from knowing Jesus is better than a person has a millstone around their neck and be drowned in the sea, because they are going to stand in judgment. But the thing is, suffer not the little children to come unto me. Anyone who does, be better off that you had a millstone around your neck and be drowned in the sea. Yeah, absolutely. That's not even talking about abuse. So you can imagine how God feels about people mistreating children. You know why? Because abuse in God's eyes, verbal abuse, psychological abuse, emotional abuse. You even have a thought about a child. You have an evil thought in your mind about a child. You have just killed them. That's what Jesus said. What you think equals murder. You have an evil thought about anyone, and you've murdered them in God's eyes. You don't even have to do the act. All you have to do is think about it. So if you even think about hurting a child, you've killed that child in God's eyes, and you will stand in judgment. And thank God, hallelujah. I'm happy there's one judge, and my judge. I'm very, very thankful for God to judge because He's going to judge me, but He's also going to judge those wicked people, and that makes me really happy. So this is the issue. I thought, how am I going to really allow myself to change, from holding grudges against my abusers, which my abusers were my mother, my dad, and my brother. Right? I'm not talking about these little friendships and stuff that I've had over the years that went sour. I'm not talking about that stuff. That's not abuse. That's just miscommunications and problems with people being stupid, including myself. I'm talking about abusers, right? So I'm talking about my mother, my dad, and my brother. And I thought, how am I going to because blame is where it goes. It goes on them. They committed the crimes. They were crimes. They committed the crimes, and they're responsible for that. Where's my part in this? Because it's real easy for somebody to say, just forgive and forget, which isn't going to happen, because I'm not going to ever forget. But the issue, because I'm not going to wipe my memory clean, You know what I mean? I don't think so. That would mean to lose myself. I do that and then I lose everything. But somehow, I need to feel differently. And I thought, okay, how am I going to do that? You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to have to definitely have some divine help to do that because I definitely know where the blame is, where the blame goes, And so I don't want to be out of line with God, I don't want to be disobedient as far as that goes, but I need to figure out how this works, And there's this divine forgiveness, you know what I mean? Like, I've been forgiven, so I know that I need to forgive. So what I did was I said, okay, I forgive them. But what I can't forgive is what they did. And that's the issue of holding them in contempt. It's like, okay, on a Christian level, being Christ-like and everything, okay, I did forgive them because, I can, that's the whole issue. If I didn't care about my mother, I didn't care about my family, it wouldn't have hurt nearly as much. This was my mother. I loved my mother, She did not love me. And if she did, she sure didn't show it. My brother, I loved my brother until he hurt me, That's the whole issue. I mean, there was love in my heart for these people. And, that's why it hurts so much. And the issue is did they really love me? No, not really. And my abuser dad's not capable of really proper love anyway, because he doesn't understand it. He's mentally ill, right? So what are you going to do with that? But my mom, that was really, really hurtful to be treated like the way that she did treat me, and then to have the rest of the world say, "Oh well, suck it up," So she bashes your head in, kicks your ass. Oh well, So she doesn't love you and calls you a whore. Oh well. No, this is a big issue for a child, And these things hurt, and they hurt all the way to 45. They hurt all the way to, I'm sure, to 60. Like, I mean, they hurt. This kind of stuff just doesn't go away, And so that's why I thought, well, okay, how? Then I need to do. There's got to be some way for me to feel good about this, and it has to be realistic, because I'm not into denial, right? So I'm like, okay. I have to be able to, this has to be something that actually is reality for me and truth, and I believe that God's word is true. I'm a huge, big-time Christian. I don't really talk a whole lot about this on the show usually, but I'm completely bought and sold by Jesus Christ. You bet. And so I'm I don't usually talk about this stuff with my healing journey, and that's just because I know what it's like to be on the other side of that. I was so angry at God when I was young, when I was a child. I was out in the backyard cursing him. I was cursing him, swearing at him. I was just so angry at God, And because I was blaming him. I was like, why can't you change this? Why can't you get me out of this hellhole? Why do you keep leaving me in this crap? It's like my mother hates my guts. And as I'm cursing God out in the backyard, here comes my mother to beat on me. This is the situation. I mean, this is the reality of my life. Is that I could not get away from this abuse. I mean, I could have ran away, and I actually did kind of used to stay away. But in the meantime, I really was forcing my parents to deal with me, because I was like, you know what, you people are responsible for me. You people need to do the right things by me. Well, they never did. That's unfortunate, but that's the way it goes. But the thing is I didn't have a good relationship with God. I was very pissed off at him and very, very angry. A really deep-seated anger, that it took me until 5 years ago to realize that the anger was actually directed at the wrong person, because God is a person. He's also His Spirit, right? And he's the person of God, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. So, I was directing that anger to the wrong person. The ones that were responsible for the abuse were the ones that anger needed to go to. And not my loving God who loved me, who created me in His own image, who shed tear after tear after tear for every child that's ever been abused. And it's man's choice to do this stuff. It was my mother's choice to pick up those implements and beat the shit out of me. It was my mother's choice to let those words of evil and hatred come out of her mouth towards me. That was her choice. She chose to do that. And I'm sure that God did not want that for her or for me. My mother was abused too, right? So I'm sure that my God was looking down, on my mother's situation when she was growing up, and he was probably crying those same tears, like, why do people do this stuff? Because they don't have God in their life. Because if they did, and they had love in their hearts, and they had what God is, goodness and truth and mercy and kindness and compassion and everything that is good in their hearts, they wouldn't be doing this horrible evil stuff, right? And so I knew the real big difference between evil and good when I was growing up, that's for sure, because my parents were both very evil. And, what are you going to do with that, Well, I decided that I didn't want to be that. I did not want to be like them, and I wanted to have a heart that was full of love, and that I wanted to be able to really feel love and not feel so much hatred and so much rage, from just this horrible stuff that had happened to me as a child. And I thought, okay, well, how am I going to, obviously I'm going to need some divine help for this, you know what I mean? Because I've got some serious grudges that going on here. And so it's taken me, the better part of 5 years just to feel anywhere remotely decent, and that's now. I feel pretty good these days, and that's just because I'm allowing more love and more light to come in, you know what I mean? And kind of, these issues are still on the side burner. I'm still dealing with a lot of this stuff. But the thing is that instead of just focusing on that, I've taken that focus off of that and off of just this pity party thing, and put more focus and more emphasis on how can I help other people. How can I, because obviously, there's people out there that are suffering. We know this, and it's like, well, I thought, okay, it's pretty selfish and self-centered for me to sit and just woe is me all the time. That is very much a self-centered, selfish thing to do. Sometimes it's necessary to be able to work through the stuff. Especially for probably about 3 years of this last 5, I did spend a whole lot of time looking in. And I needed to, because I needed to allow truth to change what was going on inside of me, you know what I mean? Because I had to make sense of it in order to heal from it. And so I did do a whole lot of looking in, and that's okay. But see, now it's time for me to let some of that go and focus on what I can do, to help other people, or to do something good in this life, or just to have fun, just to do something different, right? And so, that's where my mother could never do that. She was just stuck in this victim mentality her whole life, And that's I knew that. I thought, man, I don't want to go to my grave like that, I'm almost 50 years old. How long do I have to live? Most of my family, except for my dad, kicks off before 60. So I'm like, this is my aunts and uncles and all the people on all the, especially on my mother's side, they don't live very long. And my dad's side kind of has a lot of longevity, but they're all mentally ill. And so, they live a long time, but they live a long time in mental illness. That's not a good thing, but that's the way it goes. So, I'm like, how long do I have? With my own health issues, I don't really take that good care of myself. I'm not going to start trying to run marathons right now. I'll tell you that. Not to get close to 50. I'm just a lot of misuse. My body's been misused its whole life. I'm first by my parents, then by my brother, then by me, right? So, I've just been on a continual self-destruct my whole life. And so, my health isn't that great. And I thought, well, God knows that I'm for my days. And however many I have, I want to spend on the road to healing and to wholeness, not on this victim mentality, oh, woe is me, woe is me. I want to be eventually to the point where I can let go of that and say, you know what, I'm free. I'm really free. And I know it's possible. Other people have done. And so, I would say whatever you do, you just keep looking for whatever works for you. Keep trying things and reaching out and getting help where you can find it. Don't give up, not ever. It's just not an option. Just don't make it an option. It's just not an option, right? Keep going. Keep looking for that one thing that's going to change it all for you, right? And then go with it, right? Because we all deserve to have a good life, and I don't care what anybody says. That's the truth of it. And take good care of yourselves, everybody. Have a good day. We'll talk to you. I should be on tomorrow. Should be on this week anyway. So I'll be back around tomorrow morning, same time, same place. Thanks for being here, and have a great day. Bye-bye.